What up, people? It's your boy, Master Judy, out here with another Final Space review. So, Season 3, Episode 8, Forgiveness, has just concluded. And while it was laid back, there was not a lot of action, there was a lot of self introspection. And as the title suggests, forgiveness, a lot of that was thrown around. Um, we just dealt with the aftermath of Fox's death, we just had a funeral. And it was, pretty bad. Everybody's down in the dumps because they lost essentially the happiest person of the team. And Ash is, of course, rightfully angered and, did everything and let it all out, frustrated, felt the funeral was, show and everything like that. Um, so basically, she just goes off on everybody saying that, hey, I'm out, I want to leave. And so she leaves the ship. Everybody but Little Kato thinks she's coming back. But yeah, um, as she leaves, she meets an entity called Evra, and Evra during their whole plot decides to show her that hey, she's like this happy, bubbly entity, always happy, always enjoying the wonders of Final Space. And you would think that throughout this whole season, that Final Space is like a desolate, a desolate wasteland, a very depressing dimension. There is beauty in Final Space, and she shows Ash this. And I think, and this entity basically says that hey, I shapeshift because I want to, because it's a shapeshifting entity. And at first he invites her to just release your anger, blow up stuff like that. And they have a good rapport. It's a good outlet for Ash to just calm down and really think and understand and do everything of what you need to do to get out, to learn to forgive. And so Ash cheers up and does everything good, basically. It was a good moment for Ash to just have some catharsis period. It's a real light when you lose a loved one, a family member. Sometimes a friend can help, good therapy and whatnot. So I thought that that was her therapy, and I thought it was a very beautiful thing and very beautiful indeed. Um, to the second part, Gary is beating himself up because, of course, he plunged himself into, Victus pretty much forced his hand and killed Fox purposely, literally. And, after the funeral, which was very good, by the way, Lil Kato gave a very beautiful eulogy. One of the best lines from Lil Kato's character. Um, he gave a great funeral eulogy. It was fantastic. But Gary has not left the place where they had the funeral. He's still there. So Quinn tells Avocado, like, hey, he could use a friend. Why don't you go and find a way to cheer him up? And, he's like saying, yeah, but I tend to make things worse. So we see what happens. Basically, Avocado comes to like, hey, man, you good? He's like saying, I'm not good. And I think I killed Fox. And Avocado's like saying, hey, you did the right thing. And he's like saying, I've been there too. I've done some bad things. And, Gary's like saying, well, tell me. And then, this is not how I envisioned the fight was going to go. I thought that it was going to be like Gary beating himself up, Avocado saying, get yourself out of it, and then they fight. What is interesting is that we have Avocado confess to Gary that he killed Lil Kato's parents and I'm not Lil Kato's father. And so that goes as well as you can. He basically calls Avocado a coward, which ticks Avocado off. He's like, I'm not a coward. As I say, well, then you go in there and you tell Lil Kato that you're not his real father. Then, he refuses, then calls him a coward again. And then he says, you killed Fox. And so they fight. And, Gary picked up some moves, man. I don't know how he's been training, but he definitely picked up moves. And they even have like a funny timeout and everything like that. And, after that, we see that after they finally let out their aggression, Avocado's like, you shouldn't have brought me back. It's worse. I have to deal with this guilt. I don't deserve your forgiveness and everything like that. But then Gary gives a very heartfelt speech saying that, hey, I had a dad who I loved very much. We all know, well, John Goodspeed was a great dad. He's like saying, I would hate to have, him ripped away from me violently. And, one moment he was ripped away from me in a flash. And I would hate to have that happen to anybody else. I wouldn't wish that on my own worst enemy. And, it's like saying, Avocado, we got to be there for little Cotto, man. We're his guardians. We're his popses. We got to be there for him. And I know it hurts, but it's like, I don't deserve your forgiveness. And it's like, well, then prove that you do, like how I have to do with Ash, basically, when he comes back, basically. So, they mend the fences, they're bros again, and whatnot. So, Ash returns to the ship, and Lil Kata's been waiting all this time, and even Ash is surprised that you've been waiting. And it's saying, oh, he tries to throw it off, but he cares. And the rapport has always been good in the show. I've always liked it. It's a solid rapport, probably the best chemistry, rivaling that of Gary and Quinn. And so, Lil Kata asks her she's fine, and just to make sure he asks her, you're not here to kill Gary, because that's what we all have in the back of our mind, man. What's happening with Ash? And so, you know, she says, no, I'm not. And Lil like, I'm going to need a definitive answer. He's like, no, I'm not here to kill Gary. And, Lil Kata's all fine. Gary comes in, and Lil Kata feels like, this is the time that they need to heal. And so he leaves. And then before he leaves, he notices that Gary got messed up. And it's like, hey, are you good? And Gary's like, yeah, I'm good. And he just wants to say, I've been in a fight, but I'm good. And he just said, I want to say, I love you, Cat. I love you, little man. And he's like, why? He's like, just cause. So they leave. And, Gary gets, I was almost thinking that he was going to get on his knees, but he was like, he gave a heartfelt apology and begged for Ash's forgiveness. And they're saying, I would really like to know a lot about your brother. Almost mirroring like what he said to Quinn, like saying that, hey, I want to know about your sister. Shows that Gary is a very good human being. He's a great guy. It's wonderful. It really tugs at your heartstrings, man. It really does. He is a good person. Gary is a good person. A very, very good person. A very good person. And Ash sees that. And Ash says that, hey, and she starts telling, funny stories about her brother. And Gary and them are just sitting down there. And, Hugh and Quinn are watching from, the holodeck. And, they see the warmth. And the episode ends like that. So, before I wrap up, we can get into the other parts. One side note that we don't see Biscuit again for the second straight episode. Don't know where he is at. But Kevin was a very this is where I get Kevin was very unfunnily annoying in this one, so glad he was kept to a minimum. We find out that Kevin Van Newton has completed basically the gateway out of final space, and so that's what prompts everybody to say we're heading to Earth so we can get out of final space. And they contact Tribor. Nobody wanted to tell Lil Kyle didn't want to tell Tribor, but Quinn said, no, we gotta tell Tribor. So Tribor knows as well. And everything like that. Visually, the episode was very beautiful. I think this is probably the most visually beautiful episode ever. Backgrounds are great. We did not see any of our antagonists, which makes sense. This is another episode for the crew to, yes, address their demons inside and their feelings, but also an episode to decompress. And it ended very well. Yeah, the voice actors killed it, especially Nolan and Cotty. Um, they were right. I can imagine them crying in the booth with this out there. So, I give this a good 9 out of 10 simply because the dialogue, this is probably the best dialogue I've heard in Final Space. It was very good. Very good. And we just see that these characters are really good, complex, but they're good people, especially Gary. Gary's a very good person. I will continue to say that. So, thank y'all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notifications to make sure you're notified. And comment below to tell me what you thought of this episode. Once again, I do these reviews for you, the people, because Final Space is a good show. And I want to ensure that people know that it's a good show. So thank y'all for watching, and I'll have more videos up when I can. Peace.